Hello, and wishing you a belated Happy New Year. And with that, I have decided that this new year is going to be an opportunity to deepen my tarot practice and spiritual journey that I've found myself going on over the last couple of years. Now, if you're into your tarot and oracle decks, you've probably already chosen the decks that you are working with this month. But if you're not and you're looking for some inspiration, today I'm going to share with you the decks that I've chosen to work with this January 2025, and I'll talk a little bit about each deck and why I've chosen to work with them this month. So let's have a look. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to those of you who have recently subscribed to my channel. I had a bit of growth on the channel in the month of December, and it's really meant a lot, and it's really nice to know that what I'm doing has resonated with people. If you are a new subscriber, please do comment below and let us know which decks you are going to be using this January or this winter and why you have chosen to use those particular decks. It's really interesting to see what people go for and why. Now, I was in two minds as to whether to do my year ahead spread. So what I've decided to do is not to do the full spread, but just to review what I did and how that has fed into my choice of decks this month. So the spread that I opted to do is an adaptation of something I saw over on the Tarot Tats and Tea channel by the lovely Elaine. So she does a sort of clock-shaped spread, and for each month she assigned 3 cards, one for the opportunity of the month, the obstacle of the month, and how to overcome that obstacle. Now, I've decided to keep the idea of the 3 cards, but rather than putting it in a circle, I decided to lay them out in a line, so a bit like a typical 3-card spread. In addition, she also assigned a oracle card, one for each season or each quarter, so winter, spring, summer and autumn. And so for each of my seasons or quarter, I used Season of the Witch decks, Yule for winter, Beltane for spring. I would have preferred to have used Astara because obviously that's the equinox point, but it's not coming out until February. And I am planning to do an unboxing with you when I get it, because I have pre-ordered it, which I'm super excited about. Litha for the summer solstice and Mabon for autumn. So in my last video I talked about the Tree of Life, the Rooted Woman and the Starseed Oracle as kind of wild card decks almost for gaining some insights to your goal progress. Now, I wasn't sure if I was going to use them for my year ahead spread. Eventually I decided not to, simply because I'd already used those for quite in-depth readings in the month of December last year. They gave me insight as to where I was with my goals and things that I needed to work on. So I felt that I already had that information, and I felt actually in terms of looking forward, so that spread was more about looking back and almost a review, if you like. And so looking forward, I decided to use a different set of decks for my year ahead spread. For my opportunities card, I chose the Oriens Animal Tarot by Ambi Sun. Now, I chose this deck because whenever I've used this deck, the messages have been quite positive, and because this was the positive placement in the reading, I just felt this deck sort of intuitively would be the best deck for that position. For the obstacle card, I was going to go with the 4 Haxa deck, and because I've always felt like MJ Cullinane's decks often quite read like cautionary tales, so I thought that would be a strong candidate for that position. However, I'm planning on doing a full review on that, and I'd already sorted the cards into their suits, and I just didn't want the hassle of having to shuffle them and then reorganise them. So I went with the Star Spinner Tarot by Trungles, and that is also a fairy tale deck, and again that has a cautionary vibe to it, and I don't know if it's just because that's the nature of fairy tales anyway, and actually I'm really pleased I went with that deck because it went so well with the other decks that I had selected. And finally, for the how to overcome the obstacle, I went with the Tarot of Pagan Cats, which is a low Scarabeo deck. And I chose that deck because, I don't know, it's something about that deck. I've said in the past in my full review that because it's sort of cat energy, it does have that sort of, if you've had a cat, you'll know what I'm talking about here, but that sort of very gentle, friendly advice kind of energy. And I think, I don't know, creeping into the new year, we've sort of been out of sync, out of sequence. I just felt that that would be a nice gentle way back into the new year. Right, I'm not really a kicking and screaming sort of go-getty person, and definitely more cat, slow slinking. And I felt that that deck would be really appropriate for the how to overcome, kind of not shouting at me but gently nudging me with a slight purr as we go along. So this was a real deep dive, and it's probably the biggest year ahead spread that I've attempted. Last year I did the Tree of Life spread with the Tree of Life deck that I mentioned in my previous video. That was a really interesting spread, but because the Tree of Life system is quite specific, I hadn't quite got my head around it because that deck was very new to me when I did it last year. However, this one, because it was laid out as a 3-card spread for each month, it felt more manageable, and with the addition of the Oracle card, it was so interesting how the Oracle card fit in with each of the months for that season. And I'm not gonna show you the whole spread, but I will show you how I recorded it in my tarot journal. So what I did was I laid them out season by season. So what I did was I pulled the season card first and then lay out the cards for each month in that season and just did it as a season by season spread. And something I've started to do, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later on in the video, is just looking at each card and write one word initial gut reaction to that card, and then write a little visual interpretation for each month. And I did that for each month, and then at the end of each month I looked at them and combined them with the card for the season and did a summary for the whole season. And it was so interesting how there were themes cropping up for each season. So we had winter was a time of growth, providing I could find balance. Spring is all about reviewing ideas but also having to make some quite firm and decisive decisions. That's something I'm not very good at, so that's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. And summer is about finding balance but staying focused, but also a time to start taking some risks. And I don't know whether that is at the moment referring to this YouTube channel or whether it's my artwork side of Vaudeville Manor. It will be interesting to see where those ideas manifest in the summer season. And interestingly, autumn, I pulled the autumn card from the Mabon deck, which is all about falling leaves and shedding things that don't serve me anymore. And I suppose once you've gone through spring and summer and you've had time to test ideas and to work on a few concepts, I think this autumn spread is asking me to be quite critical and to be willing to let go of a few things that I've probably been clinging on to. So after doing that, how am I going to move forward and use the information that I have obtained for the forthcoming year in my tarot and oracle reading practice moving forward? Now, if you've been watching some of my other videos, you will be aware that my tarot and oracle deck collections are rapidly expanding. I saw a wonderful term for somebody who enjoys tarot decks the other day, and that was from The Waves of Your Soul, and she described herself as a deck goblin, which I thought was wonderful, and I think I might also be a deck goblin. And so sometimes I get a little bit overwhelmed and I'm not always sure which decks I want to work with, and I kind of need to get on top of that. So I've decided to keep it very simple this month. And I'm going with these 4 decks. And I'm sure I will end up picking up another deck or 2 along the way. But these are the ones I'm going to focus on. In relationship to my year ahead spread, as I said, I've been using the Season of the Witch decks for each season, and in February the collection will be complete, and like many of you, I'm going to be using each one at each of the 8 Sabbats. And as we're not quite at Imbolc yet, I'm continuing with the Yule Oracle. For my winter spread, I received the Star card, which is about following your guiding light. So I'm going to use this card throughout winter, but specifically for January as a focus for some of my tarot readings, and in particular for my daily readings when I just pick a single card. I will be using the Season of the Witch deck, and the question that I'm going to focus on is, you know, how do I keep moving towards my guiding star? In addition to that, I have started a visual journal to help me explore these concepts a little bit more. This is obviously not finished. I clearly chose to use a fine liner that wasn't water resistant, although part of me quite likes the blurriness. If you would like me to do a separate video on this journaling process, then do comment below. And it's really just doing a meditation or just working very intuitively with the cards that I have pulled, in particular for my single card pull, with the intention of exploring this idea of following my guiding star and the sort of energies and qualities that I might want to embody. Now, my main tarot deck this month is going to be the Textured Tarot by Litha Mcloughlin art. And again, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll know that I'm a big fan of Litha Mcloughlin. She is an indie tarot and oracle deck creator. However, she had retired her decks, and sadly this one is no longer available. But she has recently announced that she is exploring ways of coming back to creating tarot art, but I think it's going to be in a new and different way, and she hasn't announced that yet. But I'm super excited that she hasn't given up working with tarot and oracle art imagery, because I absolutely love her work. Because this deck is no longer available, I'm not sure whether I will do a review, but I'll just give you a little bit of a flavour of what this deck is like. So she's a mixed media artist, and these are just simply beautiful. It's a lively deck, and when I used it for the first time, I think pretty much all of the cards were cards that jumped out. So yeah, there's definitely a kind of wand or fire energy to this deck for sure. I chose to work with this one because not only is the artwork beautiful and it's a new deck for me, I did treat myself as a Christmas present. It's just very different to a lot of the other decks that I have, so I was keen to explore it. Now, in terms of pairing it up, I actually decided to pair it up with Lily Ashwell's Heavenly Bodies, and the reason I paired it up with this, so this is an astrology deck, is because I think visually, although the art style is quite different, in terms of kind of colours and textures, I think they work really well together, and I did have quite an interesting reading using these 2 decks combined. This is the first full tarot reading that I did in 2025, and thinking about how I follow the light that guides me, I decided to do the Passion, Direction and Destination spread, which I found in my Tina Gong book. So for Passion, I had the King of Cups. That is telling me that, yes, I've got lots of creative ideas. I feel passionate about them. With that, I have always had this desire to share this with people and help people. And the King of Cups is associated with being a fatherly figure. And so that makes total sense. So I've got that underpinning desire. However, to reach or to go in the direction of my guiding star, I'm going to need to pick up the visionary energy of the King of Cups, who is the master of his art, accomplished, and has a strong sense of self. And I'm quite an introvert, and so I'm aware that sometimes I need to be a bit bolder and to put myself out there. And if I can do those things, then the next stage is the Queen of Swords. Now, I think sometimes she probably gets a bit of a bad rap for being a bit judgmental. However, looking at some of the other meanings for this card, especially the ones that Litha Mcloughlin has provided, she's also confident, she's perceptive, she's ambitious and wise, and I'm hoping that they are the attributes that this card is telling me, rather than the more negative attributes associated with this card. Now, interestingly, with the heavenly bodies, I pulled the Capricorn card, which I felt summed up these other cards really, really well. So obviously Capricorns are renowned for working hard. So we've got the ambition, which is summed up by the energy of these two cards here. We've got the realism, probably more associated with the Queen of Swords. We have the methodical steps, so if he's going to master his destiny, he's going to use methodical steps. Now, I'll just talk about this one. This was a jumper card. As I said, this deck is quite lively, and they all want to jump out. But the Ten of Swords here, I mean, nobody wants to get the Ten of Swords in their reading, but I just interpreted this as a bit of a cautionary aside that whilst there's this energy of creativity and moving forward, I just need to be careful that I don't end up self-sabotaging or overthinking or getting overwhelmed, because obviously those things will lead to exhaustion and burnout. Now, I'm very good at self-sabotage. What can I say? It's a Virgo thing. We definitely overthink things. So I think obviously the deck wanted me to have that as something to bear in mind. But I thought this was a really powerful message for the beginning of the year, and definitely some things to focus on. Before the new year, I'd already decided that I was going to work with my Waite Smith deck a lot more, just to become, I'm quite an intuitive reader at the moment, and I was aware after I did my Hush Tarot review that actually I still have quite basic knowledge when it comes to the Waite Smith cards. And I'd been looking in my Ultimate Guide to Tarot book, and at the beginning of the book here, Liz Dean suggests some very simple activities that you can do with this deck to become more familiar and to explore some of the hidden, more deeper meanings of these cards. So I've decided for the month of January, in order to hone my art and to become better at understanding the Waite Smith deck in particular, I'm going to just work with the images, and this is a majors only task. So I've actually separated out my major cards. With this, I'm just going to be doing a 3-card pull. What Liz Dean recommends we do is to look at the symbols within the pictures. This is just based on a reading I did at the beginning of the year. I had attempted one before New Year, and what Liz suggests you do is just to look at any main symbols, any colours, anything that stands out overall as a deck. Jot them down, and just to see if you create a story with them before you look at the meanings. In addition to this, she recommends you just put a gut reaction, one word, so these are the words in blue here, of what you feel this card is about, regardless of whether you know what the meaning is or not, and then to check in with the keywords that she has provided further on in the Ultimate Guide to Tarot. I've actually found this a really useful task, and I've only done this a couple of times, but already I'm starting to feel more confident with Waite Smith, and I hadn't really used this deck since getting it back in the summer. I've just never really warmed to this deck, which I know is sacrilege, and I know it's like the iconic deck, but there's just something, I think because the artwork is quite old-fashioned, it just hasn't really drawn me in compared to some of the other decks that I have. Having said that, reading the Ultimate Guide to Tarot, I do find the symbolism of Pamela Colman Smith's kind of use of colour, and even down to the things that she's put on their fabric and what they actually mean, absolutely fascinating. So that's another reason why I thought I would give this deck my full attention. Not only do I feel that if I'm going to be going on this journey of tarot that I need to be more familiar with this, just from an art point of view, it's really interesting to consider and explore the pictures in more depth. So to sum up, I feel like as I go on this journey, the more that I go on this journey with the tarot and oracle cards, the more I feel like these cards are guiding me to go deeper on this journey, which sounds a bit crazy, but I've mentioned this before. I've had this feeling that tarot came into my life for a reason. I wasn't expecting it to be a part of something that I ever did, and I feel like the readings that I get are confirming that I need to learn more about the tarot and to share my experience with it. But what about you? Did you do a year ahead reading, and what have the cards told you? Do you feel that that information resonates with you? Pop a comment below. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found that video useful, and perhaps it's helped to inspire some of the decks that you might like to use this month, or new decks that you might want to check out, or ways of combining different decks and ideas to evolve and develop your tarot practice further. If that's you, then please remember to like this video, and if you haven't already done so, subscribe to my channel for future tarot and oracle related content, which also includes looking at the artwork and the ideas behind them. I'm Sally, and this is my channel Vaudeville Manor, House of Art and Tarot. Until the next video, here are some other videos that you can watch in the meantime, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.